Hey, what's up? Historically, I've been a big fan of the smash burger cooked on a griddle, but if you think about it, a thick burger grilled with care is actually way more intense and way beefier. It's juicy, it's kind of a mess, and it has just a hint of smoke. In fact, I think the right way to look at a thick burger is more like a steak and less like a burger. To get started on these burgers, I need some beef. More specifically, I've got 2 pounds of boneless beef short ribs and 1 pound of beef chuck. I've chosen the short ribs because of the deep beefiness they bring to the table, and I chose the chuck basically for its fat. There's a lot of it in there. The blend of these two is going to give us something that approximates an 80-20 ground beef. I found that any more beef fat than that, we have a nearly impossible to control beef fat fire on the grill. To get this beef turned into burgers, we need to cut them down into roughly 1 to 1.5 inch cubes. And if you see something that looks like silver skin, just go ahead and trim it off. My beef looked clean, so I didn't need to worry about it. And once they're cut up, we're going to spread these cubes of beef out evenly on this sheet tray and then put these beefs into the freezer for 25 minutes. In the meantime, I want to show you guys how to make a proper sesame seed bun for this burger. To do that, I'm going to grab my stand mixer, and into the bowl of that, I'm going to measure 125 grams of warm water, 3 grams of instant yeast, 35 grams of sugar, 75 grams of mashed potatoes, 45 grams of melted butter, 300 grams of strong all-purpose flour, and finally 5 grams of salt. Now the dough hook goes on, and I'm going to mix this on low speed for 3 minutes or just until everything is well combined. Once this is all combined, I'm going to mix this on high speed for 5 more minutes. Once the dough is clearing the bowl and slapping around a little bit like this, we're going to give it a tug to see if that gluten is as well developed as we'd like. And as you can see, that looks good. And now I'm going to throw a lid on this and let it ferment here on the counter for 90 minutes. 90 minutes later, this dough has roughly doubled in size. It looks soft and gassy and ready to rip. Now I'm going to flip this out of the mixing bowl and onto my cutting board, and then using my digital scale, I'm going to divide this into 6 roughly 100 gram sized pieces of dough. From there, I'm going to grab a little half sheet tray lined with parchment paper, hit that with a little bit of olive oil, and then spread that from edge to edge. To shape these buns, I'm going to fold in the sides and then roll that over on itself to get that folded seam on the bottom of the ball. Then using my palm and fingertips, I'm going to roll this up. Once there's a nice tight seam on the bottom and it's stretched all nice and tight on top, I'm going to move this over to my sesame seeding setup. Now, holding the bottom seam with my fingertips, I'm going to roll this dough onto a damp paper towel to get some good coverage of water. Then I'm going to move it over to my untoasted sesame seeds and repeat that roll maneuver. Yes, this is a ton of seeds, but some of them are going to fall off, and toasty sesame is a great flavor, and I want a lot of it on my burger. I'm going to repeat this move for the next 5 buns, and once all 6 are laid out on this sheet tray, I'm going to cover them with another sheet tray and let them proof here on the counter for about 45 minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to preheat my oven now to 400F or 204C. 45 minutes later, these buns look great. I know they're properly proofed when I give them a poke and they just barely hold that indent and then slowly pop that back out. That looks perfect. Now to finish these, I'm going to cover them all with a little bit of egg wash. And as you'll see, these sesame seeds make it kind of hard to get that egg wash on there fully perfect, but it does end up sticking after a few moves. Once all 6 of these are fully egged up, I'm going to load them into my preheated oven and bake them for roughly 15 minutes. Now is a good time to mention that this recipe is easily doubled and these buns do freeze very well. So if you wanted to make an extra tray for future use burger bash, go ahead, dude. After 15 minutes in the oven, these buns look very good. They're tender and buttery and covered with toasted sesame from edge to edge. They're a perfect vehicle for a thick grilled burger. Wouldn't you say, Bri? Back to the beef. It's been in my freezer for 25 minutes and it's firmed up quite a bit, but it is definitely not frozen to the point where it's like a beef stone. Next, I'm gonna grab my meat grinder, also known as the food processor I got for free 10 years ago, and into the jar of that goes about 1 pound or 1/3 of my beef. I'm doing this in 3 separate batches to take it easy on the motor of my food processor. I know that it can grind great beef, but it probably can't do more than 1 pound at a time. Now, I'm gonna run this thing for about 20 to 30 seconds on high speed or until we get to the point where that meat and fat are fully chopped together, but it's not getting sticky from being overworked, and there we go. This meat is fully broken down but still kind of loose and crumbly, which is ideal for a burger, and there's no large steaky bits in there that are going to be too tough later on. I'm going to move this ground meat over to a medium bowl and then process the next 2 batches, again 1 pound at a time. And there we go, 3 pounds of nice looking fresh ground beef. This stuff just looks so much more red and vibrant than the shrink wrap stuff at the store, and I know it's going to be a premium beef experience. Now I need to mix these 3 batches of ground meat together to make sure that the fat and meat are evenly distributed throughout the whole mixture. Also, I'm going to be working this up a little bit to make sure that the proteins start to get just a little bit sticky, but I don't want to take it too far. I'll mix just to the point where when we squeeze a little bit together like this, it kind of holds itself together into a loosey-goosey meatball shape, and that looks good. Up next, I'm going to grab a sheet tray lined with parchment paper, my digital scale, and then something to measure stuff into. Now I'm going to grab a big dog grip of ground meat and measure out 8 ounces of this stuff. That's right, a half-pound burger is in our future. Again, the grilled burger is more of a steak in my opinion, and 8 ounces is what we need to get something that has some juicy pink middle while having a hard seared exterior. Once all 6 of these are measured into loose piles of meat, it's time to shape them into patties. For that, I need to grab a little plastic wrap and, most importantly, a 5-inch plastic lid. This one came from a neglected tub of protein powder that I clearly am not using very much, and I'm sure you can find something similar in your house. Now that lid gets a layer of plastic wrap, and I'm gonna grab my first pile of beef. I'm gonna start by squeezing it and kneading it for just a few seconds. This step is essential, in my opinion, to a well-structured grilled hamburger. When you mix meat like this, you develop the protein structure, and that helps hold it together. It gets a little bit stickier. If we were to use super fresh, crumbly ground beef on the grill, it would totally fall apart. I know that because I did it 2 different times in a row. But don't go too crazy. We're just looking to hit that sweet spot where some of the proteins in the beef have begun to get sticky and the ball of meat can hold itself together well. Don't go any further than this. Now into the lid mold it goes, and I'm gonna give a little bit of downward pressure to press this into the sides. And there we go, a very clean, even, beautiful, thick burger. Once I've got 6 of these all pattied up, I'm gonna do one more quick step to make sure that they cook right on the grill, and that's indent the center of each patty on the top side. This is gonna prevent that inevitable dad burger handball that you guys all know about. That's when your dad grills burgers into a well-done puck that is basically half the diameter of a store-bought bun, and it sucks. Once I got a little shallow indentation on the top of all these burger patties, I'm gonna move them over to the fridge to keep things frosty until we're ready to grill. Speaking of the grill, to get one lit, I like to squirt roughly a half gallon or so of lighter fluid onto a nice mound of charcoal and let things blaze, BB. No, I don't do that clearly, but I did wanna try it to see if that lighter fluid taste was as bad as I remember it being, and yeah, it's pretty rough. But honestly, I think that bad flavor comes mostly from partially lit charcoal briquettes. The problem is the lighter fluid does a way less good job of actually igniting the charcoal completely, and then you end up with a lot of half-lit smoky briquettes on the edges of your fire, and those put off a super acrid bad flavor. So chimney starter it is, obviously. This is the best way to start a grill, and 1 full chimney should be more than enough to cook 6 thick burgers. While that heats up, let's talk about the garnishes for this burger. First up, you need the bacon part. This is the thickest stuff I could find at my grocery store, and I'm cooking about a 1.5 to 2 strips per burger, and I'm laying these out on a wire rack because that is definitely the best way to properly render and caramelize this product. So into a 350F 176C oven, this bacon goes for about 25 minutes, and halfway through that fat's going to begin to render out and then fry the bacon in the oven. If you're ever wondering why restaurant bacon is so much better than yours at home, it's probably because they render it in the oven. After 25 minutes in there, this bacon is crispy and fried and has fully rendered all that fat. Use this move for all future bacon-based sandwiches and you won't be bumming. Up next, some good, clean, fun homemade mayonnaise. Into a high-sided container, I'm going to measure 1 large egg, 20 grams of water, 20 grams of white distilled vinegar, and 5 grams of salt. In goes my immersion blender. I'm going to spin that up to combine, and don't go too hard because the egg white will start to hold air and that can mess up this mayonnaise. Pro tip, do not leave your immersion blender standing upright in the vinegar eggs unattended. Okay, here we go. Once everything is spun up properly, we're gonna slowly drizzle in 325 grams of a neutral oil. I'm using avocado here personally, but anything unflavored like canola or soybean will also work well. After streaming that oil for about 15 seconds, it should be thick and light and all whipped up like this. Delicious mayo. Use it and abuse it. The last few garnishes here are just some simple knife work. I'm gonna be thinly slicing some in-season fresh tomatoes. I'm gonna be slicing some crispy dill pickles. I got these in the refrigerator section of my grocery store. They're Clausen brand. You guys know I love those. And I'm also gonna be adding some raw red onion to these burgers. For that, I'm gonna be shaving them on my mandolin. Once they're thinly sliced, I'm gonna grab my strainer so that I can wash off any of that heavy sulfury onion stuff on the outside. That's gonna make this raw onion so much more palatable on that burger. And then lastly, I gotta talk about cheese. This is very important. In my mind, there are 3 very good choices for a summertime burger. I've got aged cheddar here on the left. That's the most flavorful, but the least melty. In the middle, I've got cheddar jack. That's more melty, but less flavorful. And on the right, I've got American cheese. That's basically no flavor, all melt. All 3 of these are really great burger cheeses, and it is a very hard choice. But in my opinion, a thick burger is a power burger, so we need a power cheese to go along with that, and aged cheddar is exactly what we need. Back to the grill. In goes my whole chimney starter of hot charcoal, and I'm trying to keep that into the middle, mounded up, and you'll see why in a second. Up next, I'm gonna put on my brand new grill grate. This is a cast iron one that I'm very stoked on because it holds heat better, it transfers heat better, less food falls through the grates, and less food gets stuck to the grates. Overall, it's just way better than the
the stock one that comes with the grill. Before using a cast iron grate like this though, I highly recommend brushing on a liberal coating of oil to get it seasoned up. I do it at least 3 times. The combination of heat and oil creates a polymer on the grate that makes a non-stick surface just like a cast iron pan indoors. Before these patties hit the grill, I'm going to season them up with a little bit of salt, then pepper, and then finally steak seasoning. This is just some Aldi brand steak seasoning that I jokingly refer to as B-Man's secret steak stuff. But yeah, it's amazing. I put it on pretty much all meats, vegetables, and everything. It's dope. Back at the grill, I've let the charcoal burn to the point where the heat they're giving off is kind of like a medium high. I definitely don't want a super ferocious flame under these fatty burgers. That's going to cause all kinds of crazy flare-ups and burnt meat, etc. So once this grill is at that moderately high heat intensity, down goes the first 2 patties. I'm going to season the far side with salt, pepper, and secret steak stuff, and I'm cooking 2 at the same time here basically because they cook super fast and I want to get them right, and filming stuff on the grill is hard, and 2 patties is much easier to cook while filming than 6. After about 90 seconds of hot searing on the first side, we're going to check on these to see the sear level, and these are looking pretty good. I don't want burnt patties, just well seared, slightly smoky ones from the grill. Now I'm going to flip these over carefully and continue to sear them on the second side for about another 90 seconds or so. And I want to reiterate, be very careful on how you're flipping these patties over. We did work the beef just enough for them to stay together, but they're definitely not as sticky and firm as a store-bought patty, and if you're hard on them, they could tear apart. After that 90 seconds, we're going to flip these over one more time, and you can see after that second flip, there is a really nice sear and chard on this far side. It looks really good. So now I'm going to cook this again on the first side for about 60 more seconds, and then I'm going to check the temp. I'm looking for about 125 or 50 Celsius, give or take a few degrees, and that's going to be roughly medium rare. These are close to that, so I'm going to put on my cheddar slices and let these coast for about 10 to 15 more seconds, and that's that. I'm going to scoop them off to rest on the sheet tray real quick, and then I'm going to drop my sesame seed burger buns to toast. Getting a nice quick toast on these sesame seed buns is going to bring some really fun texture to the inside of the sandwich. That looks good. Now let's build a thick grilled hamburger. First thing down is going to be a base layer of that super nice mayo that we just made. Behind that goes some meticulously shingled sliced dill pickles. Feel free to mix it up with some bread and butter pickles here if you guys want to be crazy. And up next comes that burger. Look at this thing. Wow. That's going to get topped with 2 thick slices of bacon, then a nice thick slice of tomato. I'll hit that with some salt, and then the red onions. A bunch of the thinly sliced ones that we rinsed earlier are going down next. Finally, some vegetables. We've got some green leaf lettuce going down mainly as a gesture, and then a bunch more mayo on that toasted top bun. And then you got to give it just a little squish. Take a look at this thing, you guys. In my opinion, a thick grilled hamburger stands up to any other style of burger out there. It's very juicy from all that fresh ground beef. The tomato and mayo come together to remind you of a BLT. The bun is squish. The bacon is crisp. It's really all you could ask for in a burger. It's summer defined. Let's eat this thing.